start with saying hello to our first virtual meetup this year, and the first one since, Ryan, 2019, right?
Yeah, well, and since COVID put the brakes on everything. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. And we're very happy to have Guy with us before he will take over not just a session, but maybe the world. Just a few slides. So the Ryan and I we started the user group in 2019. We had a few sessions and we had quite some fun with also meeting people in person. Then obviously things happened and we stopped everything. But now we came together last year in December, I think, and we said, okay, we have to kind of breathe some life into this again, right?
Exactly. Right. Awaken it from the hibernation, get it going again. It's time to move on and start having some fun and learning some cool things together again.
Absolutely. Which also means you can follow the user group on Twitter. We have this PSUG Rhein-Neckar Twitter handle. And obviously, because you're here, you also already met us on the meetup page. At the moment, we have, also to mention that, we have one sponsor, which is by accident the company I'm working for, which is ScriptRunner. And we are into PowerShell, so that makes sense in a way. So if you're kind of also want to see and want to get some help, some cheat sheets around PowerShell, you can go to our website and you can download these PDFs and stuff. And it can be really handy if you're doing your PowerShell work in your daily business. All right. So the agenda is pretty short. So we have the welcome introduction, then we will have Guy, and then at the end, I called it outro because I'm into music quite a lot. We're just gonna talk about upcoming events around PowerShell and maybe to find out who of you is going to be there, and maybe we can meet there again, maybe somewhere in person. All right, so with this, I would say, Guy, take it away.
Oh, that's me, isn't it? Yes, of course I recognize that name.
I think so. Or should I have? I should have said Mr. Moo, right?
Mr. Moo.
Mr.
Yes.
Moo is in the house.
Mr. Moo is in the house. Hello, everybody. Right, let's move that sharing over there. Mr. Moo's going to go away because I can't type. Well, he's doing the typing, obviously, rather not me at all. I'm just doing the speaking because he's a bit shy. So see my slide? Yes.
Yes.
Looks
great.
Good.
Okay, it won't be that well. The slides are really to remind me what to demonstrate. So this is going to be basically a lot of demonstrations. Obviously, there's going to be recording. I'll put that on my YouTube channel as well. So you saw a message in the chat. I have a YouTube channel that it's mentioned on the next slide. So let's go on to that. So we'll have a bit of information about me. I'm not going to read it all because it's rather boring, as I am. Basically, I've been developing software across 5 decades. Wrote my first code in 1980 on a Commodore PET when some of you were probably not around. So I've been developing on and off since then. I did a degree in computer science. Then I moved into device driver development for Unix servers, C and C++. Got into end-user computing in the Windows world in 1995 with a little company called Citrix. And I've been in that sort of sphere ever since, but sort of PowerShell is quite natural for me. So I'm one of those rare people, I think, that come at it from a fully developer background, which possibly gives me an edge or just makes me different. But I think that's what helps me. But at least made a use of those 5 decades, hopefully. But these will be made available anyway afterwards. So enough about those. Probably not so great unless you are in the UK, but that's for my first in-person PowerShell workshop I'm running on the 24th of March in a place called London. But I will be taking it around, certainly around Europe, to other cities. It's sort of 10 people maximum because it's very much an interactive session. Not training. Here is how you write a for loop, but people bring their problems and challenges, and I help them with them because of my practical experience in this world of PowerShell. Okay, so why use it for troubleshooting? Well, I've never been a GUI person. Why? Probably because, you know, when I started my coding professional career in the late 80s, writing these Unix device drivers, I was using a green screen, and you know, my IDE was VI with all its arcane key sequences and regular expressions for searching. So I've always been a command line sort of person, not really one of these what I call point and click jockeys, but I think you can get much more done, and I think the world is coming back round to realize that now, rather than finding a GUI and clicking around in stuff. So I just find it a lot quicker. So some of the reasons really are, I mean, it's certainly for consistency, and particularly when you know how to troubleshoot a problem with a few lines of PowerShell or a few scripts. Then you go, it's that problem again. Right, I'm going to run those scripts, see if that's the problem. And then you might think, oh, actually, okay, I'm going to automate it a bit as well. Let's run that every hour and see what the problem is, or let's run it through a framework that can control it and allow remediation as well, like Script Runner. I need some money for that, obviously, later. But it gives you the same result each time. I find it's a lot quicker, but particularly when I show you things with event logs, and you know, because the answer, certainly if you've ever done any Microsoft exams, not that I've done any since my MCSE and NT351 back in the late 90s. I must get around to doing some sometime, but again, I think experience speaks louder. But with those, you know, the actual exam answer was always look at the event log. And in the old days, we had 3 or 4 event logs: application, system, security. And it's like, there's not much there. How many do we have now? Hundreds, but I'll come back to that later. So you're trawling interesting or useful stuff, relevant stuff from that is a hell of a lot easier with PowerShell and less boring. Again, depending on when you want to do it, much easier to automate via scheduled tasks for troubleshooting. Oh, has this problem occurred? Or, oh, this problem's occurred and I'm going to fix it. I always say with PowerShell stuff, I do things, I write a script to do something because I'm too lazy to do it manually, which is a bit, as we say, tongue in cheek, as in not really true, but kind of is, in that I don't want to be doing the boring stuff. But do I spend 4 days writing something to save me 4 minutes? Probably not. But if it's going to save lots of people 4 minutes, I'll put it on my GitHub. If it's going to save me 4 minutes every day, then yeah, I might automate it. But I don't believe in automating stuff for the sake of it. And again, there are some things I do so rarely in troubleshooting that I will go to a GUI for it, or it's going to take me so long to figure out how to do it in PowerShell that the problem has got worse or gone away by the time I figure out how to troubleshoot it in PowerShell. So you've got to be, what we say, pragmatic. Of course, improve your own skills. It's all about you, after all. Yeah, we help our users, don't we? Because we love our users. But ultimately, it's all about you, isn't it? So, help to build up your skills base by using this PowerShell stuff, rather than going to an interview and someone says, "Can you use this GUI? Can you click on this? Can you do that?" Yeah, but I'd much rather do it with a PowerShell script. Here's my GitHub repo. Go and have a look at some of that. Here's some of my tweets or blog posts. So again, it can help sell you to the sort of community that you'll probably invariably end up working in again, should you ever decide to leave where you're working at the moment. So of course, one thing is saying, "Oh, we found a problem." Another thing is being able to fix it. And I like to be able to do that as well. Find and fix all in one, if possible. Not always possible, depending on what it is. Easy to share rather than tell someone. How do you troubleshoot that? Well, what I do is I arrange some stones in a line, and I ask Mr. Moo what his thoughts are, and I have a think, and it's all it's a bit vague. You've got a script, you say, run the script with these parameters, I run it here, and it does this, and it tells you this. Yeah, it's kind of self-documenting, and none of us like writing documents, do we? Oh, quick double click there, sorry. We could do some log analysis with regular expressions, so please don't run away screaming just because I've mentioned the regular expression word, but it is very good for analyzing log files, and depending on the log file, a lot of them are following a similar pattern, a date, time, a log level, and then some information, and it's very quick to get those into PowerShell. Again, you might think, well, I don't know regular expressions very well, but you think you're the first person stuck with regular expressions? Do you think you're the first person trying to parse that log file? Well, no, perhaps somebody's already written a script for it. And the lowest hanging fruit of all these in terms of log file analysis is IIS logs, which I think I've got in this deck. Whether I get through this whole deck with the demos by an hour and a quarter, I don't know, but this stuff will certainly be available, because yeah, PowerShell is great for trawling through lots of IIS logs, particularly if you want to go across multiple days or you don't know what day you're looking for the problem. Fantastic for that sort of stuff, without having to, you go, well, I've got this great IIS tool for that. Yeah, but that's again a specific tool for a specific job. How many specific tools do you suddenly have in your kit bag? Lots. Whereas a lot of the time you can just have one, PowerShell. Let's come back. What do I mean by that? As in, people will go, well, you told me to do this, it didn't work. Well, here's a script, it works for me. Yeah. But of course, with that comes a challenge that you've got to make sure you test your script. You've got to idiot-proof it as much as possible. As in, oh, what if someone put this data into it? Or what if it found this? Oh, users aren't going to be users, which of course maybe your fellow admins or whatever else, wouldn't be stupid enough to put the, yeah, people always assume the worst. Whenever you're writing code, always think, how could this go wrong? Or what damage could this do if it was in the wrong hands, or it was in the wrong place, or doing the wrong thing? So always code with caution. Okay, so what sort of things are we talking about? Processes, yeah, as in applications. Yeah, an application is a process, or processes, or threads. Yeah, we can get a lot of info about those, both what's happening now, so the sort of stuff we could do with Task Manager. I'd much rather use get process, something like that, than I would use Task Manager. So let's go and start doing some demos. Hopefully a font size that you can all see well enough. I'll not quite maximize it. I've had to make my lovely 5K screen do 1920 by 1080, so it's right in the middle, and it's kind of offset with the camera as well. So yeah, that's my excuse anyway. I'm sticking to it. So I mean, yeah, I can do a get process. What's that's going to tell me? Oh, lots of stuff. But the way we can do stuff, we'll do to get interesting things out. We could scroll up. Obviously, this has sorted it alphabetically, but one of the first things I'd probably want to do is just look at the CPU. So in fact, let's clear that. So if I do a get dash process and sort CPU descending, notice all the tab completions, but it's very easy. And I only want to select the first, the top 10. Oops. Yeah. And that is the CPU. So I'm just going to find Task Manager. And that's not Task Manager. Close. Not good with the icons because I use MSRDC, but more about that later. Where's Task Manager gone? I can't find Task Manager. Okay. I'll tell you what I'll do then. I'll start it. Oh, I am an admin here anyway, so I can just start it from here, couldn't I? Right, so that is actually sorting on that column. So this is typically how I will have my Task Manager set if I do use it, because I do use GUI tools as well. I'm not just a slave to PowerShell. Use the best tool, quickest tool for the job at the time for a quick look at stuff. Task Manager is okay, although notice I have mine, which is something I found difficult in Windows 11 to find. I have mine paused, which I do in all the other OSs I use as well, where it's normally set to normal. Why? So it's easy to see things, puts less load on the system. So if you've got something here, you go, that's weird, and then it disappears. You haven't lost it. Yeah, you've still got it. You've still got it here, and then you can just do an F5 to manually update it. So if somebody says to me, because again, part of my background has been troubleshooting troublesome systems for many years. Even before I got into Windows, I was doing performance monitoring on Unix. So it's kind of, someone says, oh, this machine's running really slow. Let's jump on, and you look at it, and if you look sort on the CPU, it's like, well, there's not really very much going on, is there? System idle process 94%. That's pretty good. Teams, yeah. Well, I'm presenting through it, so it probably would use a little bit of CPU. But what if you've just missed the problem? Because that's what we call Sod's law. Yeah, there's been a problem. As soon as you jump on, your very presence there means yes, I can. The problem has gone away. How many times has that happened to us? Which is great, but then it's also frustrating. I don't like problems going away because they will come back. They always do. So if we sort that on so if I log onto a machine and try and figure out what was taking the CPU, the first thing I would do is sort on CPU. So this is the amount of CPU it's used in the life of the process. So for instance, if we look at OneDrive there, at the moment it's not using any CPU, but it's used 20 minutes. Up here we see this is in seconds, so 20 times 60 is 1200. Obviously I did this a little while ago. So we can say, yeah, that has used a decent CPU, but how long has that been running for? I actually had to reboot last night because I got some Windows updates, but I tend to only reboot every couple of weeks, unless I get a blue screen, which I had for the first time on Windows 11 last week, I think it was. So normally these would be much higher. But yeah, when did I boot? Okay, well, we're going to drop into the WMI side of things now. Well, that's a slide coming up in a bit, but let's just find out anyway. Oh, I haven't got it there. Okay, so I was trying to use Control-R to search, but we'll come back to that later. So what I'm going to do is get in instance Win32 and spot operating system, tab complete, which takes a little while the first time you use it because it needs to go and basically go and get all the WMI classes, of which we'll see later there are hundreds, if not thousands. Okay, but where's the last boot time? Well, again, if you're familiar with PowerShell, you'll know that a lot of these objects have the ability to just display what the person implementing has decided were the most interesting. We can pass it through format list star or select star to show everything. Where we see everything in here, we can see there is actually a last boot up time. So what I would do is select last. I don't want to type it all. I could tab complete it, but because I've got that sad sense of humor, I go last boot, which goes and gets it. So that booted at 8 minutes past midnight this morning. I was working late on some PowerShell code with a customer, as you do, because it was interesting. As most of the stuff I do is, fortunately. So that's why I last booted, which kind of, we'll come back to WMI and stuff. But how long's OneDrive been running? Well, what I can't see in Task Manager, even on the mighty Windows 11, is how long that has been running for. Various things in here. The properties is properties of the exe, not, so what version am I running? Yeah, great. But when did it start? So again, I can find that very easily with PowerShell. And now I'm going to switch to using aliases. So if you know any sort of Linux, Unix world, let's say where I came from, then to get processes in there, we have something called PS. Don't use these in scripts. Don't use aliases because somebody's seeing PS in a script. Go, what does PS do? Yeah. But when you're doing stuff on command line, it just makes it quicker and easier. So I could say PS minus name 1. And notice what I can do is tab complete the processes as well. Or are you familiar with control space? Control space is great. And every time I present this, somebody doesn't seem to know about this. And I guess it's just not widely publicized that for options, for all sorts of autocomplete things, you can have control space, which will show you all of the things matching what you've typed. And then also you can cursor through them. If I want to look at other options, control space again. Yeah. Notice at the bottom left, it shows me even what type it is. So does it take a string, or does it take a number, or can it take multiple strings, like an array? Yeah, we see the type, which is rather useful. And so we'll do OneDrive. Yeah, again, shows me, oh, look, I've got 2 OneDrive processes. But how many Teams processes do we think I've got?
10.
Yeah, place your bets, please. Yeah. Don't know where's that come from? Oops. I'm not going to bother counting them again. I'm lazy. Yeah. Pipe through measure object. 10. Whoa, you predicted, or you've hacked me. Sorry, yeah, that's 10 decimal. Yeah, not 2 binary, of course. Yeah, and probably quite a few edges as well. But again, we can start to see how I'm starting to troubleshoot. You know, do I have a lot of Teams processes? Well, yeah, I could look in Task Manager and start going, where are they? Let's sort on 1, 2, 3. No, counting. No, I can't, I'm too old to be counting. I can't, you know, if I had that many birthday candles on my cake, the house would burn down. Just pipe it through, measure. Yeah. How many edge tabs have I got? Well, edge processes. That's just probably 50 plus, 75. Yeah. But how much memory are they taking in total? If we select the first 10, WS is the working set. That's what we see in Task Manager in the working set column. I think by default, Task Manager puts up private memory, but I don't like that as a figure. So we can see the edge processes all taking up a certain amount of working set, but how much? Well, let's add it all up, because I'm not adding it up in Task Manager. Measure minus property working set. Yeah, so that's how many properties there are. And if I actually bother adding them up by using the minus sum, don't you love live demos? You see, we all make mistakes, particularly me, but you know, I admit them and move on. So if you see lots of red on your screen after you've executed your fantasticest, that's not a word, by the way, your best ever script, don't be demoralized. Yeah, have some good error handling in there, but that's a different presentation. So that's how much it is. How many is that? Divide that by a million? Again, I'm too lazy to do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is bracket it, and let's see how much it's taking up in gigabytes. Again, can I be bothered to type and work out how many zeros? And of course, I don't. I'm one of those people that believes that, you know, a kilobyte is 1024 bytes, and people go, "Well, that's 1,000," and that's back to our start conversation about metric, because somebody told me, well, 1024 isn't very sort of metric, it's not very logical. It's like your illogical British imperial units where we have 14 ounces, 16 ounces. See, I don't know them, 16 ounces to a pound, where a gig, you know, should be 1,000 megabytes, which should be 1,000K. Yeah, anyway, I waffle slightly just for a change. Word waffle meaning, talk without really saying anything, which I'm very, very good at. So we can see my working sets for all my edge processes there are taking up 4.8 gig. Is that a lot? I don't know. But I'm not troubleshooting a problem at the moment. Again, what I would say with a lot of troubleshooting is if you've got a system or a user or something where there isn't the problem, you know, run the troubleshooting in parallel, run the same commands on the two different machines and see where the answers vary massively. You know, if you've got a slow machine where edge sum of working sets was 200 gig, then it makes your for look a bit weak. And if you haven't got, you know, that much gig memory in a machine, and it's like, yeah, perhaps we've got a problem. Perhaps we are doing a lot of hard page faults. So we can do a lot here just with the various properties, because remember, there are a lot of properties. Now, if I look at, I was going to look at OneDrive, wasn't I? So ps minus name OneDrive, and again, this is the command line completion in PowerShell 7. It's telling me I've entered that command before. So if I just hit the right arrow, yeah, it puts it in there ready for me. So I could change it or just go, but that still doesn't tell us the start time. So what I could do is I could say select start time if I could type it, or I can again tab complete it because I'm lazy. So I can see those processes both started at that time, which is which. Well, let's say an ID, and so on. But what other properties are there? Well, there are various ways you can look, because this is how I do a lot of stuff is by, and with new PowerShell Cmdlets. I've just started doing some stuff with OneDrive now because I want to be able to figure out and get a whole OneDrive history for a file. I know you can do it in Explorer, but that doesn't give you any granularity. It gives you granularity of an hour, whereas I want to know down to the minute. So I've started looking at those. So I just get the module, explore what commands are in the module, then explore what those Cmdlets do, and then explore their results. So one of the things you can do is select star. So select everything. Obviously, if we did that we would have, certainly if we did that for a lot of processes, here, even here, we've got a couple of screens of information. So if you're not using it already, let's get used to using Outgrid View, or OGV as it's called, which is brilliant. It's sort of almost like a built-in GUI in PowerShell, GUI, graphical user interface. So this allows us to do all manner of stuff in here. We can sort and filter. We can filter on various things. So in fact, I could turn this almost into a mini static task manager. So if I actually do that, and then control control backspace even, deletes a word at a time. Yeah, so I don't have to do lots and lots of repetitive backspacing. So this is now all of my processes and all of their properties. So as we can see, if I scroll across on this measly 1920 display, you'll see there's a lot of columns. We do get command line, which can be very, very useful. Something, again, we don't see. Oh, no, we do see in Task Manager, actually, don't we? Don't see things like start time. So these can be very useful. Parent process, and we get information about where the process is, where the binary is from, and its version. There's a lot of interesting information out there. I use the word interesting loosely, probably wouldn't get you very far at a party, but depends what sort of parties you go to. I don't get invited to those anymore. So a lot of information there, so we can see. So, with my OneDrive stuff I'm doing at the moment, I'll just do get a commandlet and just pipe it, select star through Outgrid View just to see what sort of information there is there. And because, of course, then you can filter on that sort of stuff. Always filter left. So what you wouldn't do is do something like where name equals OneDrive. Why not? Because PS there is getting all however many processes there are, which there are probably quite a few. If I could type measure, it would help. Yeah, so I've got 402. So it's fetched all 402 processes back and then filtered them. Whereas where I do a PS name OneDrive, that says to the commandlet, only get me processes with the name OneDrive, or you can use patterns in there as well. So you could say 1 star. Yeah. Or if you're interested to see what Citrix processes I've got, what I'll do is I'll do a PS. Now I can't, I don't think I can do I know you can't filter on path, so you'd have to get them all and do a where, or because I'm in an immediate PowerShell console, then I'm going to do a question mark, which is an alias for where object, but again, don't use that in your scripts. And so I'm going to say where path minus match, or regular expression coming, scary, Citrix. Why have I put 2 backslashes? Because backslash is a special character in regex. So there we go. That's every Citrix process where we've got Citrix in the path, because you probably know by working with agent software that there's usually quite a lot of X's working out of one or more DLL directories. So we could then select ID, comma name, comma start time, comma path. Yeah, so we can say actually they're all running out of the same folder. This is the still 32-bit, well, what used to be called a receiver, now called the workspace app, but underneath it's all still, well, all still the ICA client as it was back in 1995 when I started with the Citrix stuff, albeit I was using it on Unix clients, not Windows clients. So you can see we get a wealth of information, and we can filter left where possible. What can I filter on? Well, again, control space. Those are the things that I can filter on. But I can also get information on a running service. So what version of OneDrive am I running without going to Task Manager? What I'll do then again is minus name one, go away, drive, pipe it through, get item property, or GP for short, if I was doing this interactively, which I am. We'll see. And what does that do? Well, that now tells us about the exe. So notice that's now the exe, not the actual process itself. So that's vaguely useful. I can say, well, that's dated March. That's probably fairly recent. But again, don't trust timestamps. if I had write access to this as an admin, and I am actually running this as an admin, although everything I've shown you so far, I don't actually need to run as an admin. I don't log on to my desktop as an admin. That would be madness. So, yeah, timestamps cannot be trusted. What I'll do then instead is, and why are the two OneDrives in there? No, because there are two OneDrive processes, if you remember. So for each one, it's gone and got, oh, look, they're running the same executable. Yeah. But what if I want to know the version number? Get item property. Again, if we do a select star minus first type even, you'll see there's version info in there. Tell me what version it is. It tells me the vendor. So what I tend to do is do this GP select. I can't type. Select, not only expand, version info select star. And again, that's done two lots because there are two processes. You know, if I just pick one process, don't just pick, so this is the block for one process, so I can see various things about it. So if I'm looking at a process, I don't really understand what it is, but it's using a large amount of memory, you know, again, because I can sort via memory. PS sort working set, you know, before I sorted on CPU, descending, select minus first 10. See if there's anything I don't recognize in there. That, again, probably everything you recognize in there as well. But you know, if there's a process I didn't recognize, and I could just pipe it through and get the version info. I could even do it in one command here to get version info. So I'll do a lot more process stuff just with the command line as opposed to Task Manager. See how one bullet point leads to quite a lot of demonstrations. Services, again, you know, start, stop, interrogate, and this is worth talking about. Sorry, let me just have a sip of this vodka. Water. Because there is built-in get service within PowerShell. You can see there. Again, there is a lot more information available, but there's not as much information as you would possibly like, which is why we have to switch to WMI, which I'll come back to when I get to the WMI slide. So if we pipe that through Outgrid View again, we can see, you know, the descriptions. We can see the full path to the binary, which can be quite useful. Notice that it's always including any command line options, so it can be a bit of a pain to, if you want to get just the executable, then you have to do a bit of regex parsing. You say, oh, split on space, but what if there's space in the string because it's got quotes? And it's like, yeah, think, well, really complex regex? No, I just choose two regexes, one where it starts with a quote. So I'd break it on a corresponding closing quote. And if it didn't match that, I'd match it breaking on a space. Yeah, rather than trying to come up with one fancy regular expression which match both instances. Yeah, keep your regular expressions simple. The KISS approach, as we call it. So various bits of information in there, but there isn't some information like the current process ID, which can be useful rather than having to try and tie it back to, you know, get dash process and look for the exact same command line. And what if I've got two command lines? Because you think, well, hold on, how does Task Manager do it? If I can find the services, is that services? Yeah. So services, it knows. So how do I get this? So again, we can do that through WMI, or HIM, as we should call it now, because WMI you can't use in. Why didn't I hit tab instead of? Yeah, so we're in PowerShell 7 here. So if I do a get WMI object, which some of you may have seen before, that should not work. What? Hit command. Strange. That shouldn't work. Don't use WMI because a lot of PowerShell 7 I've seen, it's not there. Don't know where it's come from, but your PowerShell is probably better than me, and you know, and you're laughing at me. But that's the advantage of these virtual things. Even Mr. Moo's laughing at me. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, okay. Yeah, schoolboy error. But we'll come back to that for services. But again, there's not just the services get service. Remember, with PowerShell, we have approved verbs, get and set. So they're usually in opposites, new and remove, stop and start. So what service commandlets are there? There's obviously get service. Well, I can do a get dash command, which I just showed you as GCM, and start service. Now we can see there's quite a lot. But what we can do, actually, because a lot of those are from, as we can see, from lots of different PowerShell modules, what I can do more sensibly here is if I do a -noun service, that will just search for the commands where the noun is just service rather than Azure service. Yeah. So we've got verb, the doing word, and then the noun. So I can do a -noun. Then I don't have to worry about all these other things which you just happen to have service in the name. So you can see we can do quite a lot with services. New in 7, if I get a 6 PowerShell 6.NET Core, no. Let's get PowerShell 5, Windows PowerShell. I could type it. So that's PowerShell 5. That a little bit. And if we do the same command, GCM on as a noun service, you'll see a slight difference. Oh, yeah, I can't move it out of the way, can I? Notice there's no remove service in here, yeah, which there is in PowerShell 7. So if you had to do a PowerShell 5, Windows PowerShell remove service, you could call out to sc.exe. You know, sc.exe, the script service controller executable. But whatever you do, don't just type sc. Because SC is the, so I'm failing to show here, don't you love dive demos, definition, SC. They not do that in PowerShell 7. That's interesting. Is that because too many people have typed SC and got really good at these demos, aren't I? GCM, right, get dash, just type SC, Guy. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mill. Notice I've typed SC here in PowerShell 5 and it's calling set content. How many people have I seen trying to do, you know, sc.exe query or stop or remove, and it gives an error because SC is actually set content. Yeah, if you type sc.exe, then it will fire up SC. Yeah. If you want to know what other commands there are, we can say GCM SC. Set content, whereas over here GCM SC, they've removed that built-in alias. Yeah, that's built into PowerShell, and you could unalias it in your profile if you wanted to. But what else is there with? Yeah, what other executables have I got with which start with S? Yeah, control space. Remember I mentioned that earlier? Oh look, Scrivener. Hey, wasn't expecting that to be there, but not that I've got a problem with it being there at all. But yeah, again, control space gives me this, yeah, tab completed list. Obviously, if you've got a lot of stuff, it will say, do you really want me to show you all X hundred entries? And a lot of the time you don't. But this is where it's nice that you can, you know, if I want to, the one I always forget command is one with the disconnect for MSTS remote sessions. I know it's got this in it somewhere, but I'm not sure where. Yeah, so I can just pattern match on star this star and find that it's TS discon. Yeah, I always think it's discon for some logical reason, but it's TS discon. Yeah. So PowerShell can help us explore, you know, executables as well as just PowerShell commandlets. Because, you know, PowerShell is great with, you know, get command, get help, get module, find module. You know, it's meant to really help. So we do a certain amount with the various commandlets we saw there for services. But again, think about whether your code's going to run on PowerShell 5 or PowerShell 7. PowerShell 7 is great if you've got access to it. And if your customers allow you to use it, my customers don't, because their customers, because I work mostly for software vendors, probably haven't got it installed across their estate because it's not standard part of even Windows 11 yet. So we have to slum it on PowerShell 5, and sometimes I even get shouted at for writing it on PowerShell 5. So, well, yeah, but you need to support PowerShell 2. PowerShell 2 that went out of support how long ago, and PowerShell 3 has been out for what, 10 years. So I'm just finding the app to turn the light on above my desk because I'm too lazy to use those old-fashioned switch things. And then I find I've gone to the wrong smart app. That's clever, isn't it? And then I go to the wrong app. I'm getting flustered because it's on Tapo, not on Smart Life. And eventually, because I know you all want to see my face, or one of them at least, my light comes on. So yeah, think about whether you're targeting PowerShell 5 or PowerShell 7, because there are some subtle differences, like WMI, SC. I have to use 5. Permissions, yeah. In the old days, we used iCackles. Familiar with iCackles? Can do a lot of stuff. Much better than Cackles. And then there was Xcackles, which was on the resource kit, and so we could do things. But we can actually built in commands now, which can work on more than just files. So we've got, again, if we get command minus noun ACL, access control list. So we've got 2, get ACL, set ACL. So if I can do a get ACL on shows me that. And again, let's assign that to a meaningful variable name, like ACL. We can then pipe it through get member, GM. So we can see actually there's quite a lot of things. So there's properties that we saw, but then there's also methods. This is where we're getting into interesting PowerShell stuff because we can call methods. So for instance, I could find out the owner. ACL.get own. Again, too lazy to type it all. Probably get it wrong anyway. So tab complete. And I don't know. And what it's telling me here is I should have given it a target type, which is probably where I have to RTFM, because what is a target type? So I'd have to actually go and look at the manual for that to figure out what a target type is, or go and search my previous code. But what we can do here, it's very easy to, and again, I've got some samples, I think, on Pastebin, probably tweeted them a few times as well, where if you want to copy the permissions from one folder structure to another, you can literally do a get ACL of one and then pipe it through a set ACL on the destination. So we can just copy the permissions, but we can do a lot more with that. It doesn't just have to be, I can't remember if we can we do it anyway now off the top of the head, whether we can do it on registry keys here. Registry keys are through the PS drive. What we had a Guy Leech key. No Guy Leech key, what's that all about? Yeah, see, so I can get permissions on registry keys. There is a limit to what it can get. I don't think it can do it on services yet, but most things which you've got a PowerShell drive. So you can see here, you can do permissions on. So we can see here's our registry, PowerShell providers, where I can do permissions. Things like variables doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, but you can get it, all your environment variables through an env drive, which is this one. So I can see what we've got there. The certificate drive, which again, I think probably mentioned in the slide, so I can see what certificates I've got. ls cert : /. We can see we've got the local machine and current user, as you'd expect if you were having the MMC up. So if we look at the local machine, again, we've got various stores. Look at see what I've got in there. Some certificates for TechSmith Snagit for some reason. Or I can look and see what I've got for my current user. I have many certificates. Interesting. Then again, we can get more information. When's my IIS certificate going to expire? Well, that information is in there. So if we do a select star to show all properties and then minus first one, we can see there's a not after, yeah, which is actually is a date time. So I could say machine where not after is less than get current date, got add days 30. So do any expire in the next 30 days? No, because it's 2027. So that's what let's give it 30,000 days. Yeah, so it's picked up a few which expire within 30,000 days, but I probably don't have to quite panic yet. But when do they expire? Well, let's select subject and not before and not after. Yeah, these look like they all went on when Windows 11 was installed on this repaired laptop because the hard drive had died after 5 months, but I'm not on this call to knock Huawei, so I won't. And you can see we've got 2032 in some of those as well, so they're not in danger of running out. But again, you can now start to say, troubleshoot, right, so I could write a script that would go and query my IIS box or boxes, yeah, to then go and get certificates, see if any, then send me an email, or maybe I'm using something else with certificates and I could actually get it to request the certificates rather than just email me saying, hey, certificate on this machine runs out on this date, you've got this many days. So you can start to see the automation potential so that you can do that. Somebody's probably already done it once. I mean, I've got a script on my GitHub repo, which would link in the slides because I've got 140 scripts on there, all around sort of troubleshooting. There's definitely one on there for finding IIS certificates, which are going to expire within X number of days by pulling out the IIS servers from Active Directory and going querying all of them. So you don't have to think, okay, which of my IIS servers is that one and that one? And then you forget one, which is the main one, which is your chief something officer uses, and then the certificate expires and you're in trouble. It's always network, isn't it? It's always DNS. So what can we do? Well, yeah, we can do ping equivalents. One of my favorites is test network connection, which isn't there in PowerShell 2. I forget when it came in, but again, control space to see the arguments. We can either just do it to simple ping. So GRL, my jump box, just does a simple ping to it, and the results come back. But again, that is an object. Ping equals, that comes back, $ping, select star. So you can see we've got a number of things in there. So rather than, I don't know if any of you have ever tried parsing the output from ping.exe, which we had to do in the old days. I've been scripting since the 90s in these sorts of environments. So you end up trying to do text parsing in batch files of ping results or ipconfig, and it gets pain. This is where PowerShell, because it's based on objects, is much easier to work with the results. So I can look at the results here and I can see TCP test succeeded. So I could say if $ping dot TCP test succeeded, that should have output is okay. That's interesting, isn't it? Mr. Moo, help. Let's succeed. Yeah, because TCP, Guy, you're being stupid. Yes, thank you, Mr. Moo. I don't need to puppet, do I? I can just talk down to my desk. Here's there, and it's like, yeah, he's helped me there. Why? Because the TCP test succeeded is false because I didn't do a TCP test. I did a ping test. When you write scripts, when you do things, when you demonstrate to prestigious user groups, make sure you know what you're doing. No, Heike, next time, get something on it. Yeah. But if I do want to do a TCP test, this is where it really does come into its own, I think, in terms of not having to get third-party tools. I can tell it a port. So without a port, it does a ping. I can say, okay, is port 443 alive? And let's give it a more meaningful name. Or call it port 443. It's quite catchy. $port 443. Notice the time TCP test succeeded is true. Yeah. And this time, if we again we look at all its members, we can see we've got other things in here. You can see which interface it went through. It's gone through the USB-C hub I've got hiding behind my my monitor. Network context, the root, all sorts of things in here that we can get. So I can test, is that particular machine alive and listening on that port? Because if it's not listening on a port, we might have a problem. Let's pick a random port. And in fact, it's taking a little bit of time. We can tell, is it going to work or not? Probably not. No, my luck, I would have picked a port that's got something listening on it. So yes, I have got port scanners in PowerShell. It's very easy to do. Yeah, if I want to do a port scan of all of the first 30 ports, how do I do that? That's for each object. Yeah. But of course, I can type % a bit quicker than I can even tab complete that. I'm going to output the number, and then I'm going to port $_. And there we have a port scanner. I'm not going to wait till that to finish. I'll come back to the slides and then we can come back to if any of what the other ports were open. This is at a machine on my internal network, so if there are a few ports open, I'm not overly bothered about it. There is a problem with testnet connection, which you're actually seeing here, is it is quite slow. But there are other ways around it. Again, something I tweeted a while ago, and I've got in some scripts, is where you get at the underlying C sockets API, and you can do effectively the same thing, try and make a connection, but you set the timeout yourself. So you could set a 2-second timeout, because it's something like 20 or 30 seconds here, which you can't change, which is a bit of a pain. Anyway, back to this sort of stuff. So all sorts of network issues. We can do DNS queries. If DNS is working, and we can actually check the network interfaces themselves. What speeds are they running at? What profiles am I running with? There's a whole wealth of information we can get there. Bring a lot of that information together, and we can analyze slow logons, looking for things. The ultimate in that is a script from a company I do work for called ControlUp. If you go to their website, controlup.com, there's in the resources section, there's a section called scripts, and that has a script that allows you to analyze the duration of a logon, which I will come to. Let's go back here a moment. Not that I'm advertising at all, because these scripts you don't need to use ControlUp for at all. You can literally just go and grab the script from here. You don't have to sign in here at all. Copy the script, paste it into something, and you'll see it's got a lot of blocks and whatever. It's over 5,000 lines now. I've been working on it for 4 years, but it existed even before I worked on it. But you can run this, and the only actual mandatory parameter it needs is a domain name / /username. And once you've done that, it will give you all sorts of information, pulling stuff from event logs, pulling stuff from process auditing, WMI queries. You know, if you want to sort of see how a beast of a troubleshooting script fits together, then analyze logon durations in its wealth is quite involved, because there's a lot of platform invoking, as in calling of Windows APIs in there. Let's get rid of those because you're not really going to help. No, I'm trying to do a demo. Do you mind? Thank you. So yeah, 5,000 plus lines of exciting stuff in there. If I troubleshoot slow logons, I'll do a couple of things. And again, I've got a couple of simpler scripts which are available on my GitHub repo, as it might be caused by a process which is causing problems. So we already said, well, we've got processes. So how do we know what process is? Well, you run propmon, process monitor from sysinternals. Great tool, yes. But my logon was 2 hours ago. The call's only just come through to the help desk. Okay. I get my time machine out, and I will go back in time and I will set. No, I think if I had a time machine, I'd do something more useful with it. I'll tell you more about that last week. So what we'll do then instead is use process auditing. What do I mean by process auditing? Have I got an event viewer here? No, because I don't use it very much. Like I say, there we can see I'm going to. In fact, I'll leave that running now in that window, Windows terminal here. And what I will do is let's run up good old event viewer. Don't use it very much. Why? Because I use PowerShell because it's much easier, particularly with command line history. Once you've done a search in PowerShell once, you've got it in your command line history. As long as you've got a persistent PowerShell profile file, as long as you've got a persistent Windows profile, so a local profile generally on a machine, then all those commands that you used in the past are going to be there. So if I see what else have I done in here with get win event, and I do control R to search, and I can control R to search again. You can see there's one I put out. It was quite a popular tweet the other week. What has Windows Installer done recently? So I know the provider name is. How do I know the provider name's that? Well, again, get -win event minus provider name. In fact, I don't know. Is it going to be install? It might be install. It might be MSI. Stupid boy. List provider, not get event. See, wildcards are their own worst enemy, or would it be Windows, or would it be just be installer? We don't know. But this is how you can explore what logs and providers there are, because there are logs and providers. So you can go and interrogate all of those quite easily. And go and look what's interesting. But then you think, oh, hold on. Yeah, Windows logs. This is the old days for event logs with lots of event sources in there. And yes, you could filter. Oh, I've got rid of my right-hand side. Sorry. So we could filter the log and do the equivalent by going event sources M. Of course, it highlights it, which is a pain. MSI. There. Where is it? There. Bang. Okay. So I could use event viewer to do the same thing, but again, I have to look at one event at a time. Whereas if I'm doing it in here, I can get them all in one go, or I can get them all in a grid view. Yeah. Oh, something I didn't tell you about a grid view, which is dead exciting. Well, actually, it's not exciting, I have to say, but it's useful. And again, this is only providing the basic columns. We could do a select star to get a whole lot more information. And we can move the columns around. It's like, no, actually, what I want is the time created, so I'm going to move that. Oops, almost got it. Resize. You can move the columns around if you want. You can move them around this way. Remove columns if you don't want them with the grid view. But what I was actually going to show you was if you find something in here which is of interest, you go, "Ooh, that's interesting, that particular one," which isn't. I'm just acting now, as you can tell. I've highlighted it. I can't do anything with it, so I can't really right-click anything. I can't well, I am right-clicking it, but nothing's happening. But what I can do is I can hit Control-C on the keyboard. And if I now fire up something called Notepad, you may have heard of. Oh, we'll forget what file it was looking at there. You see what it's done here. If we do a word wrap, you see it's taken that whole line. I think it's a big window. Yeah, from the grid view. This will be when I had it on my 5K monitor. Did I mention I got 5K? It cost me a lot of money. So that's put that line from there. Yeah. So it hasn't put the column headings in, which isn't very nice, but it has put that data in. So if you're now going to go and search for that on Google or Bing, if you're using Bing, I wouldn't waste your time, to be honest, although it's got AI now. I've got to be very careful what I say about Bing, otherwise when it takes over the world, it'll come back and get me. So if there's things in here, so if you think, oh, I wonder if somebody else has had this detection of product thing. Okay, well, now I can go and copy that, paste it into my favorite search engine, which is mine is DuckDuckGo, and go and look for it there. Although, to be honest, if you've not used Microsoft Power Toys is also very useful because that will do OCR on the screen. and again, I'm not going to show that, but shift Win T, and it will do OCR, optical character recognition, so it will read stuff from an image. But a lot of dialog boxes that you get up on screen, not a lot of people know that you can actually hit Control C on them, and that'll put the text from the dialog into the Windows clipboard. You all know about Windows clipboard history, don't we? Should have enabled. Hopefully I haven't got any meaningful passwords in here. Always enable clipboard history on your own machine. I'm not sure about users. Some people say, oh, it's bad for security, but it's very useful, particularly if you want to do a tweet with several things you've got on the clipboard. So you don't have to go back and copy them again. You just scroll down your clipboard. I have to be careful how far I go because it might have some passwords in there, because it does put the passwords in there as well. So what was I doing? Yeah, so event logs. But remember, with event logs, there are rather a lot. So what event log do I look in for this slow logon or for this particular user problem? Yeah, how many event logs have I got? And there's a slide later on, which I'm never going to get to, but I think last time I ran it, there were over 1,000 event logs. So again, we can do a bit-win event minus list. Guy, you're not fit to be in front of the keyboard. Get win event minus list log star measure. How many? Oh, only 499. Yeah, logs to look through. Yeah, not even 500. Yeah, how easy is that to just go through Event Viewer? Because not everything is in the application or system event log. How many providers? Some which haven't been set up properly by the look of it. 1,255 providers, where one provider will feed its events into one or more event logs. So I haven't got 1,255 of these to look through, but some might be relevant. Yeah, so to something. So if I'm looking for something to do with RDP, yeah, I can see there are various terminal services and other things. Oh, and a WordPad provider. That's useful, isn't it? What we're getting around to here is that there are a lot of events. What I find is massively useful for troubleshooting in Windows environments, I recommend it to all my customers and my engagements, is to set up process auditing, which when you set it up, ideally through group policy, you can do it through script. Various of my scripts will actually set it up for you as well, or you can set it up through locally through security policy. Easiest way is down here. You don't need failure. You shouldn't get any process creation failures. That's when it actually is going to start a legitimate executable, because it would have errored before that and fails for some reason. Maybe you've run out of resources. So success is all you really need. Couple that with command line auditing, and then what you get in Event Viewer. So if we look at 4688, which is a process has started, we can see for this user as Zaphod. And we're even getting the whole command line, which is not defined in there. It's another group policy setting or a registry setting. Again, I've tweeted about that many times, mainly because I tweet things so that I can go back and search and find them later. Because my memory is not what it used to be. Well, I don't think it is. I can't remember. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Moo. So you can see we get the full command line, which is good and bad. Because if there were passwords in here, we'd be able to get them. But of course, the security event log is only accessible to admins by default, and we don't make our normal users local admins, do we? No, we don't. So there's a wealth of information in here about who the parent process was, when it started, and then we can find a corresponding end one. So if I was diagnosing a slow logon, which I actually do have a separate session for, I could come back and do that some other time if I get invited back. I'll rush to invite me back. Thanks very much. I'll just talk to myself. This is why I prefer in-person events. On vodka time. But I can just get those events from the event log. Yeah, so 4688, I can say get dash win event minus log name security. You can see there's lots of it. What was that column name? Let's do a select first 10, very easier. Rather than having to scroll all the way up. So ID, I could say where, which is where object ID equals 4688. and go and get all the events back. And I could just select one as expand message and put that through something we can see. But you see we've got a lot of stuff in there because each of these, as we saw before, was actually a large amount of information. You know, in here is not just the executable, it's the context, the token, etc. All useful, well, most of it useful information, but difficult to get out. So what I did was effectively write a script around this. So if we can see what time I logged on, 8:54 this morning. I don't have young children, so I don't have to get up early for it's half-term school holiday here anyway. That's my excuse for being lazy anyway. So what I can do is use a script that's on GitHub, which I use pretty much daily for troubleshooting. So I can troubleshoot it for slow logons. I can do troubleshoot for application crashes. You know, if a CMD window, which we've all seen probably, pops up, you know, a black window at some point, and go, what was that? It's too late. Yeah, if you didn't have your crystal ball out to run Protmon, you wouldn't know what was going on. But with process auditing, you do. So this is a great tool for, you know, troubleshooting something that happened, you know, 10 minutes ago, 10 hours ago, 10 days ago. If your security event logs are big enough, you might need to make your security event logs, particularly on Citrix or terminal services or multi-session AVD, bigger to cope with a number of events. But you can go back in time without a time machine. So if I now run that script, which isn't on a share, so Guy scripts. Oh, look at this. I haven't done this, but I'm sure Heiko's happy that I am running this. Get process durations. You can see I've run it. And in fact, this was an interesting one. Let's do that. 12 hours. That might take a while to come back. So I can switch to my other one. Honestly, my port scanners, I Control-C'd it, didn't I? Anyway, so I'll leave that running. Oh, I hadn't had a Zoom meeting in the last 12 hours. Great. This actually tells me. I'll start it and I'll switch to the other window. Let's make it 48 hours. So this is running that script, again available on GitHub, looking for this particular process. Why that process? Wow, this is where this script itself, again, is useful just to gather information, which is a child process of Zoom. So that happens to be the process I found that hosts your Zoom sessions. And this is if you're a guest as well, where you don't seem to get stats. I can then also, so that it finds a 4688 event for all of those where CPT host is in that text. You know, I could do it within event viewer here. No, I keep putting CPT host, and that will eventually go and find it. But how did I know what to look for? Well, what I did was I knew my meter. Well, I was actually it did actually start at 4 o'clock, but I was late, and my excuse was there's no pop-up from my Google Calendar. I'm sticking to that. So what I did was look for interesting processes. So if a user says, well, I had some issues with Zoom at about 4:10 yesterday. So either get in your time machine, get out your crystal ball or your tarot cards, or use this script. So what we'll do is we'll say, well, user said it started about 4:10. So let's say start is 1600 on the Valentine's Day. Doesn't understand Valentine's Day, minus duration of 1 hour. So what that will do is go and find all the events from the event log in that time period. It won't find. It will have some warnings probably because I've not told it to look for terminations. It looks for start and terminations all within that 1 hour period. So you see we get a few where it says, well, I've started it, but I can't find the end event for it, which is probably because it's sometime after that 1 hour, in which case I'd specify all terminations, which would search the whole event log from that start time to now. But so what we've then gone and done is pull out the interesting information from those events. So this is all from those two 4688, 4689 events. So if we go back to here, and we can see that the 4689, I think is this one. Yeah, so that CTP host.exe process exited, and that's a bad exit code because if it's good, it's 0, but I don't remember being a problem at the end of the meeting. And then that's the process ID, which obviously we can all convert in our heads, but of course you can paste that straight into PowerShell and it will convert it for you. Yeah. Not that really means much. I don't keep a note of the process IDs on my machine. I let the event log do that. So again, I can see that exited at, what time was that? 16:55:50. So just to prove this works, in fact, I can filter very quickly on CPT. And lo and behold, there we go, 16:55. And I even put the duration in. So that's how long that meeting lasted in seconds. But how did I know it was CPT host? Well, again, the user said, or I knew that my meeting started about 4:10. So I looked in the process created time, which is here, which it's sorted on by default. So I knew it happened round about here, and I knew I was looking for something to do with Zoom. So again, in the quick filter in the grid view, because remember the grid view is built into PowerShell, I can go Zoom to zoom in on anything which has got Zoom in the name. So that matches Zoom anyway. We can get more specific criteria. So we could say the process contains Zoom if we wanted to, but I just guessed that it would have Zoom in because it's installed in my profile in the Zoom folder, that anything hosting a web session would be from that Zoom folder. So I look down here at the duration column, which is in seconds. So I know I was on that meeting for the best part of 45 minutes. I try to avoid meetings, but this one happened to be able to charge for, which is nice. Makes them worthwhile. And we can see that was 2,714 seconds. So that was, yeah, and it finished then. So yeah, that probably was the process. So I could then, and it's got lots of interesting command line options and so on, but I'm not really interested in those. I could see the command line options. I can see who the parent process was. I could get the launch time of that parent process. I can see some of it was started from Edge. Don't worry about the subject logon ID. If that says 999, it's not a user session process. Well, it's elevated. And then because I also use this as a security tool, I can say, well, who's running stuff out of their profile? And I can go and find all processes. So that's where I could say, well, what else is running out of the profile? So let's go bang, and let's instead go process add contains Zaphod, my username, although I've only got the one head. Some people say that's very big. That's my username though, isn't it? So let's have in fact, let's filter it on zaphod.guy which is the name of my domain. Notice it filters in real time, so it's rather slow. But what it should do is now only show processes which have got that path in here, so I can see what's running out of Teams. Or is it Teams running out of resources? Or what's running out of my profile is what I was trying to say if I rearrange the words. So you can see it's mostly Teams, Zoom. And there is actually because this script is done partly for troubleshooting and partly for security auditing, there's also a summary option within the script. So you can say, oh, we've got good old GoToMeeting in here as well, and WhatsApp update. So I can use it as an auditing tool, and it also, which is why it brings in details of the executable, whether it's signed, who the exe vendor is. So again, this is showing PowerShell how we can bring in multiple commandlets. Get win event to get the events. We can then go and get information about the file. We can then go and get information about the signing of it. So we can bring that all together in one UI. And this is a script I use pretty much daily for various troubleshooting. Something crashes or something unexpected pops up, or just something doesn't feel right, or I want to know what command line options something had. Because again, if I want to reproduce this manually, again, Control-C on that line or multiple lines, I can select multiple. In fact, the way this script works anyway is that this is using a minus pass-through on the grid view. So all everything that's put in there then goes into the clipboard. So I don't even have to manually paste it. And the advantage of that is it gives me structured data, which I could then further examine if I needed to. So that shows how we can use event logs to troubleshoot. So what I would look for in a slow logon, for instance, is long running processes. Running out of time, so I'm not going to dwell on this one. But I would look at what processes start and stop during the user's logon time, and then compare it with a normal logon. Oh, look, that particular process takes 45 seconds, and the user says the process is 45 seconds longer than usual, and it only takes 0.1 second on that machine where it works okay. I think I found my problem. What is that process? Why is it running? Why is it running slow? Certificates I've already kind of mentioned. Registry, because we're a PowerShell provider, I can interrogate the registry, I can delete things, I can create them, I can change them all very easily. We can do stuff with SQL, some sort of database, I believe. I still do stuff in Sybase, to be honest. There's a lot we can do there, either with the SQL PowerShell commandlets you get with PowerShell Studio, or there are some built into .NET. Because whilst having lots of people go, what's your favorite module? I probably don't have any because I don't use many third-party modules. Not because I want to write everything myself. No, that's stupid. If someone's got a module for something, why would you then go and write it yourself? No, use that module as long as you trust it. But because I write a lot of scripts to customers, they don't like prerequisites, as in you have to install this module and that module and this module before you're allowed to run the code. So I use REST for a lot of stuff. So a lot of Azure work, I'll use the REST API because all I need is invoke web request, invoke REST method. I don't need any Azure PowerShell modules installing. I don't need to keep them up to date. I don't need to worry about permissions and so on. Same as SQL, so I can do stuff built into .NET, so I don't need to have any SQL commandlets installed. I can run SQL on this Windows 11 workstation that I'm using. Active Directory is similar to SQL in that there is the Active Directory module, which if you're doing a lot of Active Directory work, install that. Again, you can install it on your workstation. I think I've got installed on here. Have a look at my, show you all my, yeah, okay. This is where I have to identity. Is very far. Is that going to work? Yeah. But I could also do that through ADSI, the Active Directory scripting interface, which again is built into .NET/Windows. So I don't need that Active Directory module. A bit more cumbersome to use. Again, there's some script examples on my GitHub repo of using ADSI, but it does mean you don't have that prerequisite. But it can get quite painful to use. And then a whole lot more. Even if there isn't a built-in module for it, and again, there are a lot of modules just available, both built-in, and I've installed a few on my workstation over time, from Microsoft, from VMware, from Citrix, other vendors you work with, and I pick them up from various places depending on what your PS module path is set to. Is this thing? Yeah, if I can type it. Yeah, but again, I can just split that if I need to, so we can see what it is. So, I've even got some AppV stuff on here. So somebody may already have made a PowerShell module. Look on GitHub and just search in your favorite search engine for some either scripts or modules to help with a specific area that you need. But when you take any script from any source, even from me, check it's legal, decent, honest, and truthful. It's not accidentally or deliberately malicious. How do you know if it's not? Well, you need to read the code. Even if you don't understand it, you can probably tell if it's going to try and copy stuff from users' home drives up to cloud storage or something like that. Or it might be accidentally malicious. You get it. You think it's going to remove one user, but it removes 15,000 of your AD users. And then it's kind of, I wish I'd run this on a test machine in my lab. Hindsight's wonderful, isn't it? It's the only exact science, in fact. Running out of time, but I've already done some WMI Kim stuff. So what I would suggest is you actually go and explore them. So that's how I find interesting information, is I go and say, what classes are there? So you can actually interrogate and say, get-kim class on the default namespace, and that will go and show you all of those. And most of the interesting ones these days are generally the ones that start Win32, so I can go and sit in there and start searching, and because the ones for disks, for volumes, users, networks. It's a shed load of stuff out there. And they're not only just read-only. Some of these will have methods in, and you can call them. So you can, for services, for instance, you could get a service and then call methods on that service. So not just a read-only interface, but then there's other namespaces. What are the other namespaces, Guy? Well, I can't remember. Oh, look, control space again. Yeah. So what is in the Microsoft space? Then a whole different set of classes in there, although not many. So you can then go and explore things. And on third-party systems, there are ones, some generally I've seen ones from VMware, Citrix ones I use in that analyze logon duration script I mentioned from controller. So there's a whole load there. And you can even just write a script that'll go and find every class in every namespace, and then you can search it looking for keywords that you're interested in. You see some here have methods. So that one has a get security script, and no doubt it will have a set as well. We could find that out. So it's a load of stuff. But yeah, use Kim rather than WMI, unless you're having to code for PowerShell 2, which I really hope you're not, because it's painful. It's a way I gather a lot of information. So I used to do a lot of on-site health checks for customers in the EUC space to get a lot of information all in one go, rather than clicking around GUIs, or even MS Info 32 doesn't give you all the information you need. I had a script which would go and harvest every bit of information from every root level WMI class. So that gives you information about the machine, the memory, the disks, the network cards, the software installed. It's pretty darn good for getting a lot of information very quickly. And there's a script actually on my GitHub repo that targets, I think, about 30 WMI classes for just very quickly going and getting information about a particular machine or machines. Because one of the advantages of this is that I can remote it. So if I do a get Kim instance minus control space, notice I've got computer name, but if you notice very carefully, square brackets, what's that mean? It means it's an array. So that can take multiple machines. So I can say grl jump 01, grl jump, guess what? There's a 2. There's a 3 as well. I don't even know if it's online, but we'll find out. Give it a class name, Win32 operating system. Again, I'm too lazy to type it, so I'm just going to tab complete it. Again, the first time it does this, it has to cache it, so it's a bit slow. But then you think, well, has it actually done it? Or no, it hasn't done it, you see. I hit space, so I was being too optimistic. Sometimes the IntelliSense kind of thing breaks down. So that will now actually go and hit it against 3 machines, potentially in parallel as well. Parallel, running stuff in parallel, sort of all over the top of each other. Now, that suggests one of those boxes to me is up, or I haven't got access. I'm running this as the main admin in this particular PowerShell session, not who I'm logged on to my desktop as. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's telling me that Jump 03, well, it doesn't tell me, but I can see that Jump 03 wasn't listed. So Jump 03, I forget what that was, isn't up, or at least isn't available. I can then do pings or test network connections and that sort of stuff. But I can go and get information from multiple machines again, and all this stuff coming back as objects. So I can then say, well, when were they last booted even? So we'll go computer name again, last boot for the very small comedy effect. We'll get rid of Jump 03 again. Control delete to delete a word at a time. Yeah. See how much quicker it is when I don't. Let's go and get a main controller as well. GLBC03. That's online. That's good, isn't it? So how long have they been up for? So that's been up. Oh yeah, I run my lab 24/7. That's because I'm on fixed rate electricity at the moment. When that changes, I will probably look at powering it off, or rather, I shall automate some power off overnight. Although quite often I am using it overnight because that's when my best development time is. So yeah, get commits is useful for also remote troubleshooting as well. That's something else I've not gone on to. This is probably an all-day session, isn't it? Really, rather than an hour and a half. But yeah, I'll use a profile. That's another good one. So rather than you having to mess around in HK Local Machine software, Microsoft Windows NT current version profile list off the top of my head, and also in C users or wherever the profile folder is set to, which can be changed, you can access all that and delete profiles just using the WMI class or Kim class. filter in the query because it's much faster. Remember when I was showing you before about the get win event? I was saying, yeah, that gets all events from the event log and then says pick out the ones with 4688. So with get win event log, it's slightly different, but I can tell it to only filter ID 4888. And in fact, I'm going to do filter. Again, this is in the script, so. Oh, I've hit one of those programmable function keys on my keyboard. No, you haven't, Guy. You're just typing in gibberish and trying to get away with it. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moo. Sorry, yeah, I just hit the G1 on this Corsair keyboard, which is some macro that I've never worked out how to disable. But yeah, filter left. So with get Kim instance, you can actually give it a filter. So let's show that one. Get Kim instance 132 process. Let's select first 10. And what I can do is then filter. Minus filter, get some quotes in there. Name equals it needs more quotes. Unfortunately, let's go for LSAS. That not very useful. Process very secure, and that just go rather than doing a where name equals LSAS through a pipe, which will get every process back and then filter it. Yeah, just so that's this is what we mean by filter left, as far left as you possibly can. Sometimes you can't filter there. You know, if I was going to use a regular expression, the filter parameter doesn't support regular expressions, so I would have to get stuff back and then filter it. So you can't always do it. And how long do you want me to talk for? I could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours because we're only on the first of about 10. How many slides are we on? Let's have a look. Oh, you are still awake. That's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
in fact, let's view slide sorter. I mean, I'll make all the slides available anyway. Let's just zoom that down a bit. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Yeah. So I've managed to make it to slide 6 out of probably 20. Yeah. So you probably don't have enough time for this.
maybe we need a part 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Part 2, part 2.
Yeah.
The return. Part 5, is it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Sehr good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I only know 9 German. Oh, no German words. Oh.
Ordering ordering a beer in German now?
I don't drink beer, but I can get past that one.
Okay.
But yeah, I can still remember Exibera Parakalo, which is 6 beers in Greek from 1990 when I was touring with, guess what, 5 other people. Yeah, because these sessions, everyone is unique because it's, oh, what have I just thought of? What can I show? What's happened? So each one is, I wouldn't say tailored, but it's just, oh, yeah, what crops up? What can I do? I'll make the slides available. There's a lot of links in them either to scripts that I've written or other resources.
Well, we can ask the audience if there's anything in particular that can be seen on your, as a headline of your slides. If somebody, would like to see something in particular, so feel free to give us some feedback here.
Anybody's still awake?
I'm pretty sure.
And you might be sure, but you're not pretty.
Well, it's also great that you're providing the materials here. I find that no longer how long you've been working with PowerShell, there's always something that you haven't seen yet. And a lot of times you just need to have that inspiration there. You see something, you say, oh, that's possible. And that triggers some curiosity and you dive into that. And that's how you learn even more about PowerShell. And,
absolutely. I learn every day still. Every day I learn something.
Yeah, I also found some nuggets here and there about things that I never came across. Like, oh, okay, I didn't know that this is possible. So that's really cool. So is there one thing that you still would like to talk about in this session, Guy? That like. So if not,
well, if I bring up this slide, which is my top 10.
Okay.
And some of them we've seen already, like guest process, get command, testnet connection, Export CSV, again, great way of getting data out. I used to use that a lot more. I tend to use out grid view now. As you've seen, that can be incredibly useful for filtering information.
Export Excel.
Again, we've seen these. This is one which I do use a lot as well. So if you've got a problem on a remote system, but you can't somebody says they can't log on to it, and you go and MSTSC to it, and you go, yeah, I can't log on to it either. But how are you going to troubleshoot it? Well, you might be able to get it as event logs, but depending on what it is, I can then go to if I go to my jump box, this is kind of like Telnet. Yeah, if you've ever used Telnet to Unix boxes. So I'm now on that machine. Yeah, so if I type a GIP, we all know what GIP is. It's ipconfig or get IP. Is it? I can't remember what the command is. Get dash alias definition GIP. Yes, it does. You just used it. No, not definition. Stupid. Definition is what it is. So if I had said get net IP configuration, yeah. So you can see I'm actually on that machine, because if I come out of here and type GIP, you'll see it's different because I'm with different network interface. So this is my jump box, which is a VM in my private cloud, aka my garage, where I've got an old Dell rack mount server warming it nicely for me, and this is on my local machine. Yeah. So once I get into the remote machine, Control R to search, I can do pretty much anything. So I can do get dash service, see what it has a particular service stocked. So I can do command line troubleshooting. The only thing I can't do, if I try and run something like Notepad, it just hangs. There's no Notepad window popped up on either of my screens because that's a Windows program. Yeah. So I've had to Control C it to stop it. So anything Windows wise won't come up. But what if I need to check a registry key and I haven't got remote registry access enabled? Well, I could do an LS, which is if you know Unix or Starnix, then that's list file, but except we do it for registry keys. Software, Sogware, Microsoft again. I'm tab completing registry keys. Let's go for Windows NT, because we all know that's one of my favorite registry keys, which is an interview question I used to ask a long time ago. Windows NT, current version. And then we can see what's in there in terms of values. I could change it. Yeah, for every PowerShell noun, there's an equal and opposite verb, sorry, which was Newton's fourth law, which was not very well known back in the 1600s. So I can actually do a set item property to change an item if I need to. So enter PS session I use a lot for remote troubleshooting, particularly if you've got, let's say you've got a single user system. Sorry, somebody, probably an Amazon delivery for me. So the dogs are all going a bit ballistic. But yeah, if you've got a single user system and you want to troubleshoot it, so a Windows 10 AVD or Windows 10 laptop or something like that, and users using it, then you don't want to say, oh, can you just log off while I MSTSC to it, because you've only got one single user session. While that user still logs on, you can do your enter PS session and do stuff. Yeah. So logged onto here as an admin is me from my admin account anyway, 28th of January. So I could go and do things in their session. I can do, remember I talked about get process. So I could do okay, what processes are they running? Where session ID equals 2. Yeah, I can see that. And is there anything using lots and lots of memory that might need killing? Sort working set minus descending. And let's have a look at the top 10. Yeah. Oh, look, there's a very large sort of CPU-wise. There's a Perl process that's been using a lot of working set as well. I sorted that on working set, but it's used a heck of a lot of CPUs. So what's that all about? Okay, well, I could then go and look at that process, or I could kill it, or again, killing things fixes problems quickly, but doesn't help us understand where things have come from and why they've got into the state they have. So it depends on how much time you have to fix a user problem compared with being able to investigate it, so you can probably stop it happening again potentially. Do I even need to run Perl on here, and why does it use so much CPU and memory? So back to your question. Enter PS session is out of those top 10. That's probably my favorite. But those are the one. These are ones I use pretty much every day.
All right. Okay. I think this is a great summary for summarizing the session. It was this was really great. So thanks a lot, Guy.
No problem. I hope it helped
Really?
people. Like I
Yep.
say, I'll make the PDF of this available via Twitter at some point today or tomorrow. It's going to be
Perfect.
recording as well, I hope.
Yes, and I pasted in the chat the link to your Twitter handle, to your GitHub repo already. So
Thank you.
I will, we will upload the video to YouTube, and I will put the link then into the meetup description in the info. So that will happen in the next couple of days. So I think we're this was a very great session for the restart of our user group. What do you think, Ryan? Right, this was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Good to see a good number of people show up here. We definitely are not seeing a one-off here. We plan to have several more meetups. We'll be both doing online, and we'll be seeing you in person eventually too. So thanks for showing up.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And so we are planning for the next session in April, actually. We are already, I think,
19th of April.
19th of April.
I thought you were going to say April the 1st. That's always a good day to have an event.
So it's gonna be, so we are of course always looking for speakers. So if people are in the session and they have a topic they want to talk about, very welcome to contact us. And we might already have maybe a real venue where we can have a hybrid session. We are working. We got in touch with someone, or someone got in touch with us who has a company here nearby in our region. So maybe we really gonna have a hybrid one the next time. We'll see. We'll keep you posted. So I would say again, thanks a lot for being with us. Thanks a lot, Guy. This was really awesome and very helpful. So again, thanks a lot and have a good night.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Guy. I know it's not always easy just talking to the monitor, so appreciate you taking the time for us. And
no problem.
Hope to meet you in person sometime soon.
Likewise. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Tschüss.
Tschüss zusammen.
Tschüss. Guten Abend. Ciao.